All right, want to learn how to do staircase layouts in a CAD system? Stay tuned and we'll show you how to do it. So here we have a rendering from one of the houses worked on. This is internal staircase. It's a kind of a MC Escher corkscrew style staircase. That's a 3D rendering of it. Actual picture of the thing under construction. And then we got the floor plan of it right here. Let's check that stuff out. There we go. So site plan. Now this will work for any kind of CAD system. It could even work if you have like a drywall to even write this stuff down on with pencil. The key thing is there's differences at the top versus the bottom of the landing. Everything's laid out here for the full layout, and I'll show you some options of how I do stuff. Let's see here. But getting into the rules of things, let's make this a little bit smaller. So you got to check with your local building codes, and then there's also International Residential Code calls for a maximum of 7 3/4 and on the rise, and a minimum run of 10 inches. So uh, anyway, you can go lower pitch than this in height and then longer runs. But with these numbers shown here, that's going to be a pretty steep and uncomfortable staircase. So the number one compliment I got about this staircase that I design and people walk up is it's very comfortable to go up. It is roughly 5.5 inches of rise and 12 inches of run. That allows you to use a 2x6 on the riser and rip it if needed. Let's see here. So just showing you the whole staircase, and I'll try to recreate some of this just so you can see the math and how everything works. So our floor elevation from the floor, for floor 1 to floor 2, the height is 11'4". So if we, let's see here, bring over a calculator, 11 feet times 12, 132 plus 4, 136 inches of total height that we have to deal with. Now, when you're doing this, you're going to almost want to get the first floor and second floor built, what have you, or basement. Get this number and make sure it's very accurate, because that's going to make everything else go from there. So I brought this floor plan in, and we're going to go over here to this area right here. So this is near 000 in the CAD system. And this works with AutoCAD, any kind of system that can deal with one-to-one scale inside the CAD space, then you'll be fine. So let's see here. Go like so, and then I'll turn the grid off from here. I'm using Rhino, which is my preferred CAD system, but again, anything that can sketch in real 3 dimensions, you should be good. So as brought up earlier, 11'4". So we'll bring this up 136, which is 11'4". So this represents floor 1 versus floor 2. Now the next thing we gotta check out is with 136, somewhere around 5.5 inches should be a good height. So you got 136 is your total height. You divide it by, just try 5.5. So you got 24.72. Now the trick is this needs to be an integer. It's the number of steps has to be a precise amount. And there's a variance of like 1/4 inch or less that they want each tread to be equal to the previous tread. And a lot of people try to wing this stuff on the fly. They burn a lot of materials. They fail inspections. I was building a house with my dad way back when, way back in my career, back in the early 2000s. And we hired a crew. This is in North Florida, and they built a staircase and they did it wrong and it failed inspection. Did it a second time, did it wrong. And then my dad brought me in and I laid it out in CAD and it came out spot on. But this just saves a lot of frustration when you can figure this out virtually on a CAD system than trying to burn material and time on the field. So we need a little more than 24 treads to make this thing happen. So 24.72 is going to round up to 25 treads in total. So we got the 136 divided by 25, and that's 5.44. So that's going to be basically a 2x6 on the riser. If you use it this way and you rip it on a table saw or even a track saw, something like that, so you take off like about a 1/16 of an inch till you get to 5.44. You can use calipers for this too if you want to, or engineer's scale. 0.44, that's 60 thousandths less than a half inch. So yeah, it's like a go to half inch. That's 7/16. So 5 and 7/16 is basically what that comes out to. So coming over here, we got our treads, and we're going to go up at, we could do 136 over 25, and that will give you that same dimension. You can even copy some things. So this is just going over like a basic stair tread. So I'm going up by that same amount. Because it's in CAD, it's pretty precise. Let's just say we want a section of maybe 6 treads. I should mention that with this thing is a lot of people are trying to pinch square footage on a floor plan, and an area not to do. If you have a 2-story home with a lot of living space upstairs, then this is not an area to pinch square footage. Unfortunately, as you add more treads, it occupies more square footage of your floor plan. That is something to consider, but it's just it's gonna create pain for the rest of the house if you have something like this where it's almost like a ladder. So best to plan accordingly for how many treads you're going to need, if you need landings and so forth. Let's see here, jumping into it. So this is just basically recreating the stairs that I had. Let's see here, get a vertical, do one more. Let's see here, and I'll move both of these by 12 so you can all see what I'm doing here. 12. So remember, it's 5.44 up and 12 over. All right. So once you have this set up in almost any kind of CAD system, you can copy, move it up. You gotta make sure that your snaps are on when you're doing this stuff. And you can see that little white, it's saying end to 10. So it's not just winging it, it's actually locking in with these various snap features. It's on snap, it's on ortho, and then it will grab like the end and all these other various points along lines and curves. So it locks into it. AutoCAD has the same functionality. It's very common with architectural layouts with AutoCAD. So here we got our basic floors system, but this is where people screw up with some of these offsets. Let's do a real quick trim of all this. So we'll trim against the verticals using this and this. So now we got our idealized shape here, and we can add bull noses if you need to. It's just going to extend all these over. You can use different numbers, but this is just showing you how you go about things. So this is recreating the staircase that I had, and let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm gonna move this over another 36 inches, extend. There we go. So that's showing kind of like a landing right there. So I have a section of like 6 treads and then a landing. I make a turn just because of how this particular house laid out. But one word of wisdom is when you go shallow like this for a comfortable staircase, it's going to be difficult to make the treads out of like a 2x12. Usually you want to go to plywood and just rip it into 12-inch pieces. And we'll offset those. Actually, I can probably grab all of them. So I grabbed all of them and we'll offset them down by minus 0.75. So that's your plywood right there, 3/4 inch plywood. This is keeping everything honest here. So let's see here. Next thing we gotta do is we're gonna use 2x6s that are ripped for the risers. That's grabbing all of them. And we'll copy them over at 1.5 inches. Let's see here. And then they all got to move down. I should have done that when it was highlighted. Minus 0.75. All right. Let's see here. This is where it gets tricky. It's this last landing where people, like all the treads, are, you know, all in line with each other, except for like the last one and the first one, and it's always off by the thickness of the tread or the riser. And that's where things get screwed up. So let's see, we're going to trim this piece. And we're trying to make these things all accurate. So I do an extend. So I'm going to try to turn this into a realistic cross section of what I'm working with here. And then I'll do that again. So now you can kind of see the 3/4 inch plywood treads and 2x6 risers that are ripped. So that's this whole thing right here. Now, if you want a skirt board like what was shown in this picture here, that's a 2x12. That's really 11 1/4 inch. And it's almost to the top right here. So this is going to show you how to do the stringers next. So just keep in mind we have an accurate risers and treads on here. We're going to go point to point like so. And say we want to raise this up so it's not just flush, but it's up by a, I don't know, 1 inch or something. Offset, 1 inch over. And then we got to backtrack for making it out of a 2x12, which is 11 1/4. So we're going to do 11.25. And we'll take this new line, bring it over here. And you can see here, if we made these treads out of 2x12s, first of all, the length would be 3/4 of an inch shorter, and it would be start getting really thin right here. That's why these skirt boards are good to use on the side. Now you can keep an end open on the ends. It's all up to your style and what you're trying to go for. So this is showing the skirt board on the side, just like on the picture right here, this piece right here. That's on both sides. So we have our basic layout, and we're going to try to get this into a detail. Sorry, I'm doing that backwards. I'm going to trim this and just bring this up to like a corner. Fill it. Fill it is a good command to use. Just make the radius 0. And that also makes a corner. So within here, you can see kind of a overlay of everything. So we're going to go out and make a couple details from this. And these field drawings, you know, there's no need to turn this in with a formal drawing package to the county. They get enough stuff already. But these field drawings can help for if you're an owner of a company, so have a guy that can run CAD in a construction company, and they can make these details and then just hand them off to the guys, and they build the print on site. So they're not scratching their heads trying to figure this stuff out. You've done it all digitally here. So let's see here. Let's make like one of the mid stringers that, of course, would not have the skirt board on the side. And we're going to start doing some massive trim work on this thing. So that's trimmed. This is all trimmed. It goes to show you just copy paste the original thing. Yeah, we're getting there. So there we go. There's your like a mid stringer for the middle of it. In this case, this had a skirt board on the left and right, and then 2 ones in the center to increase strength. So it's just showing the basic like mid stringer, and you can see how it's visually deceptive. How this. Let's see if I can do a dimension or something. Drafting linear dimension. We'll go over here, and you can see that's 5.44, just like the risers. But then you come over here, 4.69. So if we go look at that, we already have 5.44 loaded minus 4.69. The difference is the tread thickness. So this is something in the field, laying it out, it can be very confusing on how to do this stuff. Like so by having it in a CAD system, that's the first thing that's going to help. Let's see here. We'll back out of that and let me check something here. 12 inches. So this is identical to our rise and run that we are like the finished stairway, right? 5.44 rise, 12-inch run. They're identical. So you're gonna have to start making some like a detailed plan of this thing. You don't have to go too crazy, but you got to account for lumber's expensive. They got to go to the store to get it or have it delivered. So you want to make something they can just copy, build on site. Let's see here. I'm gonna copy this thing over. And again, the commands I'm using are kind of universal for anything that has one-to-one sketching. Rhino's really good with it. But AutoCAD can do something very similar. So this is a critical dimension I did here. I took this bottom part of the stringer, I rotated it 90 degrees, and I copied it to these 2 points. Now, when they go get a piece of lumber and they go to cut the sucker, it's going to, let me extend some things here. Okay, so I got those in there. Now the piece of lumber that they're going to cut, because everything is a bunch of triangles here. Let's see, radial dimension, angle dimension, aligned dimension. There we go. So they're going to get a 2x12 and they're going to cut it to 65.57. And again, you can always use like an engineering caliper. Kind of helps to get some of these, decimal points. You just go out 65, mark it with a pencil, and then whatever the decimal points are, you get a caliper, throw it for that. And it might seem like overkill, but it's just when you're in the field laying this stuff out, you don't want to be, doing fractions in your head. You just want stuff to happen. Let's see here. I'm going to copy this line up, and this is another critical thing that I like to do myself. Let's see. Just hopefully everyone's following along with what I'm doing here. The other thing is, so we already went over it. The triangle is 5.44 high and 12 inches long, and you can use like a square, one of those like I forget the size of one of the sides. It's like 12 inches long, a metal square with 2 stops on it to recreate this, or you can get like a piece of sheet metal or plywood, make a triangle this size to deal with this. But what I like to do, we got this whole setup right here. So we're going to do other dimensions aligned, and we're going to start from one side. So it's 1.94. And we're always going to be going to the left side of this board for all of them. And the reason is it keeps the dimensions from accordioning, like an accordion, like a musical instrument. Because if you just take a triangle template and put it along here without anything to position it, it can grow or shrink. And then that will throw off your tolerance. And you could go out of tolerance, which will fail the inspection for a staircase. In Florida, North Florida, they were pretty stringent upon this stuff. South Florida, not as much, but you don't want to make a death trap for people, and you just want to do it right. Do it right the first time. So here's your like cascading dimensions, all from the left side, and you go lay this out, and it'll take you to the peak of each triangle you got to cut along the way. So you're 1.94, 15.11, 28.29. 41.46, 54.64, and 65.57. And if you had like a cattle chute stairway with I don't know, 20 treads on it, you just keep on going with this. And you just do a screenshot of this, print it out on a piece of, letter paper, and then you give it to, the carpenter on site, and hopefully he can read something this simple and go from there for the stringer. Now for something like this kind right here, you could back it up with another one of these stringers just right next to it, or you can use a bunch of blocks and just you know, nail gun them in there for the setup. Let's see here. So other things to note, my stringers, especially the ones on the bottom that touch concrete, were pressure treated, so we didn't have to worry about that. Don't ever use like, just white wood, aspen, Doug fir, Hem-Fir, whatever, and have it touch concrete. You gotta make sure you got something that's pressure treated, either green or gold pressure treating, like yellow lumber, yellow wood, or the green stuff works too when you make contact with concrete. So that's showing you this whole tread setup. And then there was some additional items. I cut little blocks on the inside. I'll show you that detail right here. So I used extra 3/4 inch plywood, like so. Whoops, back that out. Then I came over here like 4 inches or something like that, and back up. So I cut pieces of plywood like so, and then I shot. I'll try to. Then I used a screw, so I sent a screw right through here. And then when these treads went on, they had something to hook onto on a full perimeter. And then I came in with screws this side. Now for putting on blocks and stuff, it's fine to use, a nail gun. But if you want the best performance with the staircase system, I recommend Torx deck screws. And check out the description below for some recommendations on that. Along with the caliper, I'll show you that here in a second. But the Torx deck screws, let's see here. We'll pull open a window here pretty quick so you can see what I'm talking about. So here's Google and TORX 25 deck screw. And they got these on Amazon. I'll put some links to those. They also have my Lowe's is pretty good with it. And let's check out this one. Now, those are kind of too long. You're going to want something like 1.625. 1 and 5, 1 and 5/8, number 8. There we go. And you can also get these for a Senko gun, but this is just showing you an Amazon listing. So these Torx screws, once you go to Torx, you just don't go back to Phillips. They work so much better. They don't slip out. But anyway, this will really lock down the staircase and keep it from squeaking. That combined with like liquid nails adhesive. So liquid nails glue, they got at Home Depot and Lowe's, but any of these like subfloor adhesive or liquid nails general usage, heavy duty, I'll put some links to these as well. These, you'll want to put that when putting together your staircase, just to keep it from squeaking and to make it stronger. And then they got this other thing called a Senko screw gun. And I actually use a Senko screw gun. This actually was driven with a square drive. This came from Home Depot, but I think you can get them from other locations. Now, if you don't want to individually handle the screws one at a time, and you want something that's on like an ammo clip, that's where these Senkos come in because it's already preloaded. It's a little exotic, but I used it in a lot of places for what I was doing. But one of these with a little impact driver, honestly, it doesn't take you that long. So that's showing you all that. And then the last thing would be like the calipers. So digital calipers, and again, Harbor Freight has these. They're the ones they got there are just fine, or you can even go onto Amazon for that. And I'll throw some link. I'll look at these over and put some links where you can get these things. But 4.6 stars, 5,700 reviews, digital caliper. So something like this can help you get these funny numbers on that and just hit the nail on the head rather than trying to guess. There's also ways in the CAD systems you can convert these to fractions if you're messing with the right settings. Let's see here. I'll check this out now. Again, this is in Rhino 8, so units. There you go, inches fractional. Now see that just jumps it up. That's 5.5, and you're gonna blow your tolerance doing that stuff. So you need more fidelity than what that is. Linear resolution, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. There we go. 16th. All right, so you can do linear fractions, or sorry, just do fractional dimensions, but you got to make sure, like test it out, like do like 3/8 or 1/16 and make sure it actually reads 1/16. So here it's 5 and 7/16. You're ripping off a 16th off the edge, off the 2x6. So you can do things like that. We could probably do that with all of these. Let's check this out, see if we can do it. Match. Sure. That didn't work like I wanted it to. I'm sure there's other ways to do this stuff, but so 15/16, you can see that, but an eighth, and we'll come over here and we'll just do a match. Now you can set these things as like a master from the beginning, but your standard tape measure will read down to 1/16 of an inch. So hopefully that will get you where you need to go. Match. Of course, if they showed kids a tape measure in school, they'd learn fractions very quickly. So anyway, this has been converted over, so you can use the calipers if you want to get it really spot on, or have the CAD system convert to fractions. Just make sure those fractions are accurate. As you saw here, we were like an extra 1/16 of an inch up, so that's going to start accumulating and not giving you a good precise setup. So there's the staircase there showing you how everything is working. Now you could add bull noses to this too as an additional piece, and that's going to shift everything more over. You may want to consider something like an 11-inch tread if you're going to use like a 1-inch bull nose. Let's just model one up really quick and show you what that would look like. Let's say you're going to get, actually, it'd probably be like something like a 2x2 that's been ripped, or a 2x2 that has rounded edges on it. So relative at 1.5 comma 1.5. So there's all this, and then we're going to throw a radius on it of 3/4 of an inch, or sorry, 3/8 of an inch. So you took the fraction, turned it to the decimal. So there we go, and it's all one combined thing, and you can go copy this like so. And then this would just be bonded in and nailed to the end. You can change this as long as it's the same bull nose going down, it's the same dimensions. So that's a way to add a bull nose. You can also extend this over if you wanted to. But the key thing from this video is showing you the rise and run, how to calculate that, and then get into the stringer details so you can make actual detailed prints that you can hand off to someone that can read a tape measure in his drawings and make all this stuff. So that's showing how all that works. Yeah, that should cover everything. Of course, you can go in and 3D model it like so, but this should get you to the point where you can, pass the code on the first time and not waste time and material. So I had the full drawings right here for it, but I didn't have the level of, whatever you call it, all the like detail prints. This is one of the ones that went along with the plans package. You can see right here 25 steps including landings, 5.44 rise and a 12-inch run. This had 1, 2, 3, and then basically 4 landings, corkscrewing around. Now definitely consider landings are basically just another tread in terms of height dimensions. Internally it's going to have something like a 2x8 for floor structure inside that, just because it's spanning some space. But in terms of the outside shape of it, it's going to match these the rest of the staircase in its profile. So consider maybe some landings as well with your staircase design if you're limited with what you can lay out in your floor plan. Then you can use some landings. There are some, like the house I grew up in had a cattle chute stair that was totally straight. But any more of these landings are, that they're going to fit into architecture and floor plan's a lot easier. They don't need that really long set of space to make it happen. So yeah, that should cover everything. And don't be afraid to add a couple treads. Again, that let's see here. Check out your building codes and maybe even ask an inspector what's going to get dinged. But right here on the IRC code, it's 7 3/4 max rise, and then the min run is 10 inches. But maximum rise and minimum run, if you go towards that kind of thing, it's basically creating like a ladder, which is very uncomfortable. And then all the retirees that have a ton of money to spend on a house, whether it's spec home or client or whatever, are going to hate that. There's not going to be a person in the AARP age group that's going to want, that kind of staircase. So with the setup, add a couple treads and make it more shallow. It'll be a lot more comfortable. And one last word of note, I think, on this is just be careful of this dimension. Let's see if I can copy something over so you can see what I'm talking about. These are structural. People are walking on these things. So this right here, this pinch point here, you're almost like on the floor system here, and you're making something that is, let's see, other dimension, the angle dimension, there we go. Yeah, so that's like 4 inches deep right there. So it's almost like they're walking on a structure that's made out of 2x4s. Granted, a 2x4 is actually 3.5, but still, hopefully you get my point here is the pinch point. Now these stringers are full height, 2x12s, right? Which is actually 11 1/4. But the pinch point for these mid stringers is 3.99. So something that you may want to consider is doubling it up with something that is, number 2 Southern Yellow Pine down here in Florida, something that's really tough. So you would basically just grab a 2x4 and just double it up right there along the side as it goes up. Or we'll do it more accurately. Let's see, offset 3.5. There we go. A little bit of a gap there, but once you make your stringer, you just double up with like a bunch of glue and nails here, and this will help make that a tougher thing. And that's what I did on the staircase that I most recently built. So that shows you how everything works there. Please like and subscribe, trying to grow the channel. Hopefully this will help small construction companies that don't do staircases often, or you just want to hit the nail on the head the first time and give your guys in the field something to work to so they're not scratching their heads and trying to make it on the fly. There are some YouTube channels where I watch people, I won't mention them, but they're like amateur house builders doing DIY, like owner builder stuff in other states, and I've seen them fail to make a staircase on multiple tries, and they're trying to make it in the field. There's also my own experience building in North Florida with watching a crew of professional framers botch it up 2 or 3 times, burning a lot of material and time. And it's just tricky to figure out in the field. But if you can have real dimensions in front of your face on any kind of CAD system, it's so much easier. If you don't have that and you got like a big piece of drywall, maybe the staircase is going in after drywall's up, or you got some sort of, maybe even on the concrete floor, like lay it out at 1:1 scale, and especially watch out for that last little bit like I showed you before, because that's where a lot of this failure happens. Is you got the 5.44 that we've talked about, and they try to make this last one also 5.44. They shove it in there, and then the last tread or the very first tread is taller by the tread thickness, and it botches the inspection, when the building inspector comes out. So that's kind of like a rule of thumb here, but again, it's best just to lay the whole darn thing out, make a drawing like this, and then build to that. So hopefully that helps anyone trying to make a staircase, and best of luck with it. And yeah, subscribe to the channel. We'll try to get more content like this out there.